Just imagine for a second if your house was on fire and your car's tyres had just been slashed and perhaps even your child had been kidnapped. Would that be a fantastic time to go over into the neighbour's yard and kick their big, mean, tough dog square in the throat? Probably not. But that is precisely what the United States has just done with China. I'm Stuart Hooper, a lecturer in political science and PhD researcher. Please subscribe if you are new here to the channel. Hit the bell and be sure to like this video where I approach international political topics not from the left and not from the right, but instead from a position of critical reality. And that is precisely what we need to do when it comes to what has just happened between Joe Biden, China, and Taiwan. So given the current state of the world, inflation, Ukraine, potential for World War III, you might think that our leaders would be wise enough to perhaps try to solve those problems before going out and looking for new ones, which is precisely what President Joe Biden has just done today, with some comments that seemed to allude to the fact that Biden was ready, willing, and able to send the US military to fight yet another war, this time for Taiwan against China. So yes, not just another war with some Middle Eastern state that has no real capability to actually fight back, but another war that could potentially lead to, yes, World War III. This is the insanity of the world that we are currently living in. So US policy towards Taiwan is based upon the Taiwan Relations Act of 1979, and this is somewhat of a deliberately ambiguous document that is essentially requiring the United States to provide military hardware to Taiwan, but it doesn't necessarily require American troops to come to its defense. However, Biden today, in perhaps what was another gaffe, if we want to take a more light approach to this, well, Biden was asked directly whether or not the US would militarily defend Taiwan if it was threatened by the Chinese military. And he said, yes, that's the commitment we made. The idea that Taiwan can be taken by force is just not appropriate. It will dislocate the entire region and be another similar action to what happened in Ukraine. So again, we are forced to briefly remind ourselves that, of course, if the United States decides that it wants to take something by force, that is, of course, appropriate because it's done in the name of freedom and democracy and peace and love and freedom of speech and the right to vote and all of these fantastic values that, of course, the bombs always spread when the bombs are being dropped by the United States. But putting all of that aside for a moment, of course, what has Biden just done here? Opened the door to another potential flashpoint for World War III. What is going on here? Just look at the war in Ukraine. That is currently a proxy war between the United States and Russia, which absolutely has the potential to spark a nuclear conflict. Is the war in Ukraine anywhere near close to being peacefully or diplomatically resolved to bring us back from the brink of World War III? No, it's not. Not at all. But we have an American president that, while he is in Japan, so very much in China's neighborhood, is openly saying the US military is ready for action. Absolutely unbelievable. And this headline, of course, you'll probably find unsurprising, to say the least. White House walks back Biden-Taiwan defense claim for third time in 9 months. Now, the point the White House makes is really that Biden didn't stray too far from existing policy on Taiwan, but he really kind of did. He said that the US would militarily defend the country. What does that mean, aside from using US forces to do the job? So I really have 2 points to make here. First, of course, the Western world has a significant leadership problem. We really do not have a class of leaders in the US, Canada, the United Kingdom that is actually competent, that is actually capable of solving global problems, that is actually capable of not inflaming situations. We have a ruling class that is completely disconnected from international political reality because, of course, it is bought up by external interests, the military-industrial complex in particular. The second point, and this is really important, because yes, if your house is on fire, if your tires have been slashed, if your child has been kidnapped, well, if you go over and kick the neighbor's dog in the throat and the dog comes running after you, well, now you have a convenient distraction from all of those other problems, don't you? And this is precisely how Western leaders use and abuse foreign policy in the Western world. Foreign policy is not used to really solve any significant international or even domestic problems. Foreign policy, and particularly when it comes to the issue of going to war, finding new enemies, getting involved in new conflicts, it's often used to distract domestic populations from domestic national problems. Because what does it allow our leadership class to do? Well, we'd love to do something about inflation. We'd love to do something about infrastructure. We'd love to do something about homelessness and education standards. But, what do you know? We've just been caught up in a new war. And that has now got to take all of our time, effort, attention, and of course, your money has now got to be spent on that instead. Are you starting to see how this system works, everyone? It's an absolute mess. And just in case you were wondering, where does Western foreign policy come from? Does it come from our genius political leaders that take on the mantle of prime minister or president? Well, no, it doesn't. And we can just briefly look at this chart here from my very good friend Bamo Nouri's book. And we can see the Bush administration, the George W. Bush administration that is, and where they got all of their foreign policy influences from. And you can see that they came primarily from the so-called non-partisan think tanks, such as the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, the Rand Corporation. These are the places that craft Western foreign policy, and all of them are concerned with globalism. They are absolutely not concerned with your domestic needs, your domestic problems, or anything that may actually improve your life. They are only attempting to further their own agenda. Thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. Be sure to subscribe if you are new here. Would love to have you as a regular viewer. Leave me your comments on this below. What is going on? How are we going to solve this problem? Do we have any chance of getting a leadership class that does actually have a slight degree of competence? Wouldn't that be nice? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, follow me on other social media channels below, and I'll be back with more videos real soon.